Who ever heard of the saying, life imitates art? Let's take a look at the definition of that, right? Now, the definition of life imitating art is the notion that an event in the real world was inspired by a creative work. Now, let's look at some tragic life imitating art stories. Like, for example, right, the Titanic. Because, see, back in 1898, a guy named Morgan Robertson wrote a fiction book titled Futility, aka The Wreck of the Titan, which was about a fancy, luxurious ship that struck an iceberg and sank, killing almost everybody on board. He wrote that back in 1898. And what's crazy is 14 years later, after that, it really happened when the Titanic sank. And there's a lot more examples of life imitating art stories. Like, let's look at Paul Walker from The Fast and the Furious, which was about high-speed car chases and crazy stunts. And he was killed in a car crash when his Porsche, which was driven by his friend, collided with a lamppost and caught on fire. You see what I'm saying? Life imitating art. Another example, right, is the movie K9, starring Jim Belushi, which was about a cop and his dog. And in the movie, the German Shepherd dog gets shot, but survives. But see, in real life, right, that was a real police dog. And that dog was responsible for more than 24 arrests. And in 1991, the dog was shot and killed while pursuing a suspect. And, there's just a lot of examples of life imitating art stories y'all can check for yourself and do the research on if y'all want to see some more. And the rappers, I'm not even going to start on the rappers about life imitating art. That's a whole nother story. But what I do want to talk about is the tragic story of a young actress named Correa McMullen, who I feel story really is the definition of life imitating art. And this one, it was a rough one, man, because you usually don't hear about girls going through this. It's mostly the young guys and the guys going through this struggle. But let's get into her story right now. Tara Correa McMullen was born on May 24th, 1989 in Westminster, Vermont. Now, growing up, ever since the age of 4 years old, she loved playing the piano. She liked dancing and singing. In 1996, her and her family, her sister and her mother, they ended up moving to Northern California seeking a better life. And when they first arrived in Cali, right, it was rough for the family. It was a struggle. And they lived in cheap hotels and they did everything just to try to make ends meet. But later on, they ended up moving to Venice. And that's where she started singing in her high school choir and started performing in a bunch of shows with local dance groups. And she had big dreams, man, of making it big in Hollywood. Because see, one of her best friends that she had met in school said they would just spend most of their time in Hollywood just roaming the streets, taking pictures with all the little people dressed up as characters. Now, later on, Tyra's mom ended up finding an apartment in Inglewood that she thought was a nice area. But come to find out, that area was gang territory. And being new to California, they didn't have an idea. They didn't know about gangs or none of that. But we'll get to that later, right? Now, Tara's mom ended up getting a job working in the office of a casting company. And one day, the casting company was frustrated because they was looking for a young girl that could play basketball and was kind of rough and tomboyish to play in the new Martin Lawrence movie called Rebound. Because see, during that time, Martin Lawrence, he was just coming off the movies National Security and Bad Boys Part 2. And Eddie Murphy had told him he should do like a funny family comedy with some kids. And that's when he took his advice and produced the movie Rebound. Now, when the staff was talking about that role of the only girl on an all-boys basketball team, right? That's when Tara's mom mentioned that her youngest daughter, even though she never acted before, she might fit the part. So next thing you know, Tara went down there and tried out for the part, and she got the role. She landed the role as Big Mac, and she impressed the directors and the producers. And the staff of the movie, they loved her. I mean, the mom worked there as the casting company. She worked in the office, and they loved Tara. And for her birthday, they even bought her a cake to celebrate her 15th birthday on the set. And on July 1st, 2005, 20th Century Fox released the Martin Lawrence movie Rebound in theaters, and overall it grossed over $18 million, but the movie really was considered a flop because it took $33 million to make. Now, after that, Tara ended up landing a recurring role on a primetime Emmy-nominated CBS American legal TV series called Judge and Amy. And she played a troubled teenager named Gracelia Reyes. And she was good, man. She was so good on that show that the writers, they decided to put her in several more episodes, 8 to be exact. And they liked Tara because they said she had a little bit of Queen Latifah in her. And she just stood out in the crowd because she had like a special energy and an infectious personality. But see, here's the thing though. Around that time, people that was close to her noticed a change, and she started hanging out with a bad crowd. Now, some say her life just appeared to spiral out of control after her parents' divorce, and she started dating a real life gang member who was 10 years older than her, and her mother didn't like that one bit at all. And her mother tried everything to get this guy out of Tara's life. Like, she was calling the police on him all the time and everything. It got to the point that she would call the police so much that they knew her by her name, but they never would do anything though, because they say they had no reason to arrest him. Let me ask y'all something though. Now, could Tara's mother have put charges on him because she was a minor and he was 10 years older than her? I don't know, man. Y'all leave a comment on that. Now, Tara's mom ended up moving to another place in Glendale and wanted Tara to move with her, but she decided to stay in Inglewood, and her older boyfriend got an apartment together. And that's when things just really started getting bad for Tara, because she just started gangbanging and getting into trouble in real life, and she was going by the street name Lady Kick. Now, according to her best friend, he said her older boyfriend would lock her in the room and threaten to blow her brains out if she left him. He also said one day Tara showed up at his front door and she had on all red and her face was kind of beat up, and she had told him that she had just got initiated into the gang the day before, and she had got it tattooed on her chest. Even one of the producers from the show Judge and Amy, named Helen Shaver, said Tara had showed her her gang tattoo. And that's when Tara had told her that she didn't want to be on the show no more. She didn't want to be on the TV show no more. But you know, the staff on the show, they tried to convince her to leave that street life alone and focus on her career and just keep doing the show. But Tara, she responded to them saying she can't promise that, because the way her life was going, she might end up dead. Wow, she told him that. That's sad, man. But you know, the staff, man, they didn't give up on her. They didn't give up on Tara. They showed her love, and they would go to her house and pick her up to make sure she would come to work. But when she got to work, her attitude on the set was just so bad, man. She had told the staff, don't call her Tara anymore, call her Lady Kick. But then it just got to the point that she was just unreliable and was a no-show, and she was dropped and her character was killed off the show. After that, that's when she kind of realized that she had made a mistake, and she actually was trying to get focused. Tara was trying to get focused, and she was trying to get her life back in order. She started going back to church every Sunday, and she wanted to give her life to God. She had a good heart, and she was trying to change and save her boyfriend. But, you know, on October 21st, 2005, Tara was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting. Now, the story goes like 2 weeks earlier, a member of the Rolling 60s had been gunned down in her neighborhood, and they wanted revenge. So around 6 p.m., Tara and some of her friends, two friends, they was in front of her apartment talking. And witnesses say that a car had drove by, and Tara threw up a recognizable gang sign. Minutes later, all of a sudden, a rival gang member walked up to them and started shooting at them like crazy. Now, two of her friends, they ended up being shot, but they survived. They was all right. But Tara was shot 5 times in her torso by an AK-47 rifle as she tried to run inside her apartment, and she died at the hospital less than 3 hours later. Now, at the time, the police, they believe the shooting was gang related, and she just may have just been at the wrong place at the wrong time. At her funeral, man, everybody took it hard. They took it hard, man. Especially her sister, because they was real close. And her sister, she sang Amazing Grace during the memorial service, but she had to stop because the emotions, man. She told everyone she couldn't sing anymore as she was crying leaving the podium. It was just terrible, man. Terrible, man. But weeks later, they did arrest 2 gang members, 31-year-old Joseph Wayne Jones and 23-year-old Damian Watts, for the shooting, charging them with 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. The crazy part is Damian Watts was already in custody for a separate shooting the day before killing Tara. He had killed a 31-year-old guy named Thomas Sanders as he loaded laundry into his car. And Damian Watts was convicted in January 2009, and in February 2009, he was sentenced to 5 life sentences without parole. His accomplice, Joseph Wayne Jones, was also sentenced to life without parole. You know what's crazy about this whole story? Like I said earlier, right? Tara, when she starred in the show Judging Amy, she played a teen gang member that was involved in a drive-by shooting, and Judge Amy was trying to prevent her from being tried as an adult. But then she ended up being murdered by a rival gang member in prison. That's how they killed her off at the show. It's like they knew. Oh man, this is crazy. Talk about life imitating art. That's life imitating art, man. Wow. She was 16 years old. 16 years old. Rest in peace, man. Tara Correa McMullen.